Crypto carnage is happening right now in the markets. Of course, could go into a lot of other things, including the S&P 500. Today, we're going to break it down with Tim, who is going to help us chart it. But before we get started, a word from our sponsor.
I want to thank our sponsor today, and that is Uphold. We've all been there. Expenses pop up right when the market's starting to heat up. It's not the right time to sell. The last thing you want to do is sell your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your XRP, or even your stablecoin, USDC. This is exactly why Uphold launched the EXA credit card. When I found out about this, I was blown away. It's an instant line of credit that lets you borrow against your crypto without having to sell. All you have to do is just use your assets as collateral and spend it worldwide using a virtual Visa card. This is the coolest feature I love about this. There are no credit checks, and you can repay on a schedule that works specifically for you. It's the smartest way to stay long in the market while accessing your portfolio's value today. Download the Uphold app and get your virtual EXA card in just a few taps.
All right, so let's get back into it. I want to bring in Tim Warren. You guys know him from Tim Warren Trades. How are you, Tim?
Well, I'm doing good myself, Paul. My portfolio, the long-term one's not doing so great. But this is the stuff that I was expecting. So overall, can't be that much better.
All right, so you signed up for this, as they say.
Yeah.
And of course, here we roll right now with the fear and greed, and it has started to absolutely plummet. You're sitting at around 16. Last time we've been in this range was back in February. What do you think? Do you think we're going to continue to see the sentiment falling through the floor like what we've seen here in the past couple of days?
Yeah, I do. The metric I follow, it has us down at 12. 2 days ago, we were at 11. The record back in February was at 5. Yeah. So it's not back down to those extreme lows. Of course, today we just officially put in that sub 60K lower low there. But there's something I'm going to show you guys on the chart here. I've been bearish for months now. I called the move towards 80K and then a pullback sub 60K. But I thought that this next move was going to be the last one. There's something on the charts right now, Paul, that makes me think this isn't the last fall. This is the next fall. And Bitcoin's bear market, unfortunately, looks like it's going to be extended a couple more months.
So extended a couple more months. You've got right now, just in the past hour or so, we're talking about another $500 million. You got Bitcoin down to 61. It's sub 60 now at time of recording. ETH around 1,500. BNB continuing to fall. XRP approaching the $1 mark, and now Sol also taking some heat as well. Let's get into a clip real quick that I want to play for you. And this is Eric Balchunas talking about Bitcoin, and then we'll go to the chart. Take a look.
The messaging shouldn't only be, hey, the boomers are coming. That makes it seem more Ponzi-ish, like we just need more investors. I think the message is that the fundamental purpose and value here is that the government is going to print money like crazy no matter who's president. And if you want a hedge, something that the government cannot debase, this is a powerful asset for that, similar to gold.
All right, so this has been the schematic for crypto for a very long time, is that debasement of the U.S. currency, the hedge against that, whether you look at precious metals in gold or you look at digital assets from a standpoint of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others. But now they're talking about trying to rebrand this. And I think this is a very interesting question because I don't know that the culture of especially Bitcoin allows for that. I think it is the next man up kind of thing in terms of investment strategies that have kind of hit the market. When you look at the chart right now, you talk about this being the next dip. Where does this stop?
So as I said earlier, Paul, I've been tracking, and predicting a sub 60K move here, even all the way back in February when we made the move down to 60K. And I had 3 targets that I was really watching: conservatively around 58,000, more aggressively around 53,000. And then my extreme situation on this next move could have been all the way down here to 48,000. Right now, what's happening, we just wicked sub 60K. Even more interestingly, you're going to see a lot of people talking about this on the technical analysis side. We just touched the 200-week, that's the EMA. The SMA, the 200-week SMA just got hit today, coming in here around 61, 7-ish. So a lot of people are going to focus on that. You'll also see this green trend line This is the trend line of the bull trend for Bitcoin dating all the way back to the bear market lows of 2018. So a lot of support was hit today. And so I will not be surprised at all if there is a short-term bounce here on Bitcoin. By the way, we've also, for the last 3 days, been wrestling with potential buy signals on the 4-hour chart. You can see money flow. It's going to sound funny because it's not like there's a bunch of money flowing in, but money flow has actually started to go back positive. And you can see on the RSI, we started to trend with higher lows on the RSI here as well, giving us bullish divergence. So Bitcoin is overdue for what I would call a rebound revenge bounce. Not that this is going to be a bounce that takes us back above 70K or anything, but a move at this point I could easily see getting back up to 65, 66K area. But I told you, I warned a second ago in the intro, I said, this is maybe not going to be the last leg down. It's simply the next leg down. Something I've talked about on your channel is the fact that we had this extremely low RSI level back here in February that came all the way down to 16 point something, right? And if you look at our current level, we just dipped below. Now, the significance of this is that every single bear market bottom for Bitcoin has had bullish divergence where we get lower lows in price action, but higher lows in the RSI. So what we're seeing with this is not bullish divergence, implying to me that this probably is not going to be the last big move down. In fact, now what I could very easily see happening as the buy signals are close, I could easily see us coming down here towards 58 and starting to get some buys coming back up, in which case people start to get bullish again. They say, oh, that's it, the bottom's in. All the while, we're just doing another one of these sideways, boring, lower high levels, and then we dip back down again to fresh lows. At this point now, you can call it the 4-year cycle. You can call whatever you want. I'm now looking at September or October for the realistic timeline for the bounce. Because we're canceling these daily bullish divergence. They just pushed back the Clarity Act again into August, it sounds like, according to Loomis. They keep kicking the can down the road. And unfortunately, I would love to get on here and tell everybody, this is it. The bottom's in. I'm bullish now. But that's not what the charts are telling me at this time.
Right. So, and I think the point you look at, Bitcoin now down 20% since the Clarity Act passed. This is since it passed the banking committee. Now we're also seeing the Bitcoin ETF, outflows absolutely, I think, astronomical when you compare to this. I think that's why what you saw there with Eric Balchunas from Bloomberg, who covers the ETF side of things. He understands this is a liquidity event that is quite a bit different because remember, that's mostly institutional capital that's been playing in on that. Do you think clarity is that important for Bitcoin?
Well, it's going to be important for the institutions. It's not important necessarily. Like Bitcoin can make it without ETFs, and it can be successful without institutions. But we're not going to talk about rivaling gold without institutional adoption, right? If the thought process is Bitcoin is the money of the people, institutions don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. I know a lot of people who want that to be the situation for Bitcoin, and that's fine. You can think that way. Bitcoin at that place, it's going to take a long time to get over $1 million per coin. There's people talking about getting $13-15 million per coin, which I still think is possible in the long-term future. That's not happening without institutions. They still control a massive amount of wealth. We clearly know that the institutions see Bitcoin as a threat, right? Yeah. So what do you do with a threat? You either A, do everything within your power to kill it, which is what they tried doing back in 2021, and people are going to try to argue they've done it throughout the last couple of years as well. Or number two, you realize something's so threatening to you, but it's too big to beat, so you join in with it. If this new coin, this new currency is going to take over by storm, you got to fight it and try to kill it, or you have to join sides with it. I think it's the alternative. I think institutions see the writing on the wall. I think they know fiat currency is on its way out. It was a trial and error run for the last 100 and some odd years that has failed the world's economy. It's time for solid, hard money again, and Bitcoin's the best solution.
Well, and I think if you look at just the comparison, I'm looking at gold price right now on the daily, and it's starting to dip down to its low again at around 4,300. Do you think gold dips below 4,000? I'm kind of curious.
That's a good question. I actually haven't spent a lot of time here recently studying the gold charts, but I can take a quick look at it here with you. If you look at the chart here, we're actually kind of riding a level of resistance here. So if this is true and these sell signals come in, The support trend line actually has gold potentially as low as 3,700. So the answer would be yes, south of 4,000. In short, though, everything's falling today. And of course, I don't know if this is part of the show. So if it is, you can interrupt me or get rid of this part of the show. But of course, we had those job numbers come out that unemployment levels have stayed the same. If you look at any market now, Poly Market, Cauchy, even the CME futures, we're now seeing heavy predictions that we're going to get rate hikes later this year. So oil is down, stocks are down, but so is gold. And of course, crypto is bleeding here pretty profusely today.
For sure. Well, and I think the challenge right now is cash seems to be moving to the sidelines very quickly, especially when you look at the S&P, because even the S&P, I think I had a tweet on this. Yeah, here it is. 650 billion wiped off of the U.S. stock market. That's today on the S&P 500.
Yeah, that's been updated now. It's over 1 trillion now.
Yeah, so we are talking about absolute, carnage in the market. And I think when you consider what's going on with the major IPOs, at least impending, my question, do you think people are selling off at this top right now on the S&P in preparation for potentially going into something like a SpaceX or an Anthropic rollover in terms of an investment? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a little too early to try to pinpoint and say that people are taking massive profits yet. Clearly, people are taking profits. The stock market's coming down, the SPY is down, but we're talking about 1.5 or 1.6%. So not really that much. As far as what they're going to go into next, at some point, I do think cash will roll over into cryptocurrency because, again, it's still the emerging technology that has not had this massive run just yet. And I'm talking, I say crypto, let's be very specific. Real world asset tokenization is the next big technology that has not had a massive investment and massive run up just yet. So I do expect that to come at some point. But is that yet? I don't know. Are we going into IPOs? Potentially. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know information I don't know.
And you look at Ethereum in general. Let's kind of jump to that chart because this is one that gets a little bit more antsy. And, listen, there's been some big proponents here recently that have jumped out of the Ethereum bandwagon they've been on it for quite some time. I mean, Bankless is a good example. I'll talk to you about that in the lightning round to get your opinion on something. But when you look at the ETH chart, where does this thing stop?
When it comes to the ETH chart, I had a target of conservatively $1,600. Of course, I think I said $1,650 to be specific. There was a trend of support for Ethereum, which is kind of where that was coming from. That's been lost here today. I told people to the downside, that also was part of the wedge pattern. I told people to the downside, you all of a sudden now have the potential for a bear flag situation all the way down to 1,200. I think there's some interesting support around 1,450 to 1,500 in the short term. So kind of similar to like a Bitcoin $58,000 support level. That's an interesting level here in the beginning, but I think Bitcoin to 53 would probably equal at this point Ethereum to $1,200 or 1,226.
All right, so 53 on Bitcoin, 1,200 on Ethereum. And you look at this right now. If we get a macro relief, let's say, for instance, that we get a real deal coming out of Iran.
Yeah.
And you see energy correcting, it's likely that you would see money moving back into the S&P, maybe, or it could also be rotation time, from dollars that are on the sidelines. Is that enough to move the crypto markets, or do you feel like we still need the Clarity Act this summer in addition to the macro pressure to move the market?
It could be enough to get the ball rolling. It could be enough to start finding that bottom position. But I've said even if the Clarity Act were to have passed in July, but the Iran war continues and economic uncertainty continues, that also would be stifling for crypto. Maybe you could find a bottom, but until we have both clarity for regulation and economic, it doesn't even need to be prosperity, just economic certainty. Like what are we actually dealing with? Is inflation actually a problem? Are we going to raise rates? Are we going to cut rates? Once we start answering those types of questions, now all of a sudden is when the emergence of crypto's bull market can get going. And that's, again, part of the reasons why I've now updated as of today my expectation of saying, hey, I think we could bottom here in the next week or so, to now saying it's probably going to be, August at the earliest, but realistically September or October, is because as you get closer into the midterms, you get more questions, not less questions.
Yeah.
So we already know the Clarity Act at this point, realistically, in the words of Senator Loomis, isn't going to happen until August. Extremely close to heavy campaigning time during midterms. And if you go back to 2024, and that's the most recent election period, we had a very sideways and downward summer of 24 with all of the uncertainty. It wasn't until Trump started pulling away in the polls and it started to feel more certain that Republicans were going to win and everyone perceived the Republican Party as being the right party for the markets, that's finally when we bottomed out and markets started moving back towards the upside. I think it's going to be a very similar thing here, where as long as you have uncertainty on the regulation or uncertainty on the economy and where it's going to be, it's going to be hard to get any real bullish momentum for risk assets like crypto.
Well, and it's interesting because Trump keeps touting that he's not going to let crypto down. But at the same time, we continue to see hit after hit after hit on this market. And it doesn't seem like it's stopping right now in terms of the kind of pressure we're seeing on Clarity, what we're seeing obviously with the macro side. And now you add that on to the potential Fed change that we have underway with Warsh. This starts to change the dynamics very quickly, almost on every asset class, including crypto. I want to go to a clip here because this is getting into whether or not we might get a rate hike. Take a look.
I think there actually could be one this year, and for good reason. Inflation is clearly sticky. The debate had been, is the labor market weakening or stabilizing? Now the debate is definitely going from, is the labor market stabilizing to not overheating, but sort of moving in a strong and positive direction. So I think it would be unwise to take the construct of a hike off this year, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see one at the end of the year. And yes, I'd probably be more likely than not that there'll be a hike at the end of this year, because I think that's what the numbers call for.
Mm-hmm. All right, so there you have it, Tim, a hike at the end of the year. If that were to happen, if a hike comes and Clarity doesn't go through and we're still stuck in this war, is that the ultimate triple threat to crypto in terms of just exceeding this bear market into 2027?
Well, there's this phrase that a lot of people, and by the way, myself included, so I'm not going to take myself out of the boat. I thought back in 2025, we could potentially be heading for a super cycle. Now, when the phrase super cycle gets utilized, everyone just assumes it's on the bullish side. The scenario you just painted, Paul, could bring a super cycle, just the opposite of what everyone wanted. It'd be a super bearish cycle. I don't think we bottom out. If there's no clarity and the war is still going on and there's chaos with the elections and everything else, I think very well we could be looking at, rate hikes as well. We could be looking at an extended bear market into early 27, and there's our super cycle.
Listen, you and I have talked about Solana a lot. We were on a call just like this at about $8 once.
Yeah, we were.
And here we are again, looking at Solana taking another hit. So when you look at Solana and where its position is, now the last time Solana really took a hit was during FTX. That's under the bridge. We've seen an unbelievable amount of advancements in the tech and the team and what they've been able to do with the Solana Foundation and so on. Where do you think Solana stands by end of year? Where would you put this one?
I mean, it depends on a lot of the situations and scenarios we just talked through.
Well, let's paint it into the 53K and 1,200 ETH
Yes,
scenario.
If you go to my screen here, there's some interesting things happening on the Solana chart at the moment. I was ridiculed by a lot of people on the internet talking about $60 to $50 on Solana. Of course, at this time, as I'm saying it, the price is hovering between 90 closer to $100, and people think I'm crazy for talking about these types of pullbacks. Today, it doesn't seem so crazy at the moment as you're looking. Solana today got all the way down to $63 per coin. And like I said, with Bitcoin and Ethereum, I don't think that we are done with this move. So all of a sudden, that $60 mark looks extremely good. And because of where we are, I see that $60 move as like the Bitcoin 58 or the Ethereum $1,500 call. Now, all of a sudden, the situation is kind of coming to fruition here. I think the $50 call that I've made, again, months ago as a possibility, that becomes if Bitcoin hits 53 and if Ethereum drops all the way to 1,200, more than likely Solana also drops towards $50. And interestingly, as you're looking at trend lines developing here, obviously a long-term support trend line now we're watching here for Solana, long-term resistance trend line from these highs back in September. We're in a falling wedge pattern. So this following wedge pattern, if we lose the support level, okay, then we'll have to address what the next low could be. It's probably going to be in the world of $30. But this is actually a good case right here. To my point, that Solana could probably get down here to 60, have a nice little bounce, maybe even bounce its way back up towards 75, and then not actually hit that $50 call until much later. Guess when? September, October area, and then have our bullish breakout later on.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So 50, possibly a 60 supplement there. When I was looking at Solana, of course, we've seen probably the most bearish volume sentiment we've seen in a very long time on our own indicator at about 11%.
Yeah.
So that, and that's after 5 days of pretty significant falling in terms of Solana.
Well, you know what's also interesting here, Paul? I think that this actually, in a very, I'm going to make a really, this is like, in politics, you have the spin cycle, right? How you spin something really negative to sound positive. But I don't think I'm spinning. I'm talking realistically. Have you seen a headline in the last month that someone says, yeah, Solana's dead, Solana doesn't work, it's going to fall out? I haven't seen a single one. There's no news on Solana. Here's my theory as to why Solana is bleeding so badly, because it's also not performing well. When everything is being built on a certain platform in an ecosystem, and that ecosystem is not performing well, why wouldn't the thing that everyone built it on be suffering as well? Everybody wants to use Solana to build their coins and build their cryptocurrency, and real world assets are being funneled through there as well. So we're in a system that's not performing well. Everything was built there. Of course, Solana is going to drop. But when everything starts to flow back, everyone built on Solana, it's also going to be one of the next high flyers when bullish momentum comes.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and I think the high in reference to high flyers, I think the opportunity here on the upside is pretty significant. Okay, one other token I want to get into in terms of a chart is Zcash. Big hit on them on the privacy token. When you look at what's going on, they had a security researcher basically using Claude Opus 4.8. This is available to pretty much anyone that would enable you to essentially almost mint unlimited.
Yeah.
And this, of course, gets into a problem where we're going to see a lot of blockchains facing AI analysis for a lot of these essentially loopholes and these backdoors in essence. When you look at something like Zcash, I mean, would you stay or look at any privacy tokens right now based on what happened with Zcash?
Well, I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater and say every privacy token is at problems. I think this problem was specifically a Zcash problem, and Zcash's team is going to have to work very hard to answer some questions and make sure that they fix the problems here. Interestingly, this is something I did not think we would make money on it this fast, but we literally 2 days ago, right before this whole thing crashed, told our community that if you go to our chart, you can take a look here at what we were looking at. These are our indicators here. We identified, let me turn this off for just a second. We identified a head and shoulders pattern, okay? Head and shoulders pattern, for those who don't know what that is, that's simply a lower left shoulder, a middle high peak called the head, and then a lower right shoulder, okay? Head and shoulders pattern. We have a trend line right here, and I told the audience ahead, okay, this should probably put us safely down to 392, but there's a massive order block. When I turn on my indicators down here, there's a massive order block somewhere between 275 to 228, middle point here around 252. Yeah. I told our community to look for a trade down to these levels with a confirmed breakout. Sure enough, this trade, Paul, this trade should have taken like a week and a half to 2 weeks. Like I was expecting a pullback on Zcash, just not over a matter of less than 48 hours. And sure enough, both those signals we called for got hit here.
Well, this is obviously sentiment reaction to all of this. So that's not something you can call on a chart. So it's not like a scenario.
Not the speed. The speed of it was crazy. The numbers were solid. And that's why I'm not ready to give up on Zcash fundamentally all the way around, because yes, it fell very quickly. Yes, it was aggressive. But you pull up the charts, and these were two easily identifiable levels of support, not only down where we wicked to, but right now where we're camping out, like where we're coming back up to and bouncing. We identified these levels 2 days ago on our live show as interesting levels to keep an eye on for downward movement. So that to me tells me, okay, Zcash had a problem and people freaked out. But fundamentally, guess where people had their buy signals ready to execute? On traditional technical analysis, meaning people aren't just panic selling and running away. Exactly. There's still some reasoning happening here.
Yeah. Well, and that will be the question is, how does this one land up? All right, man, let's get into the lightning round real quick.
Okay.
I'm going to start off with this one right here, which is who deserves more blame for crypto's crash right now? Trump failing clarity or Saylor dumping Bitcoin? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you got to go Trump failing clarity, because Saylor dumped Bitcoin is probably more of a side effect of clarity not coming.
Yeah, yeah. I think Trump has completely lost the script here when it comes to.
I think so. Yeah, it's not looking
crypto.
good for him.
It does not look good. Congress has secretly been shorting the market, knowing that clarity has no chance. Do you think that's happening?
Oh, I think that's false. Now, could you say that they might be secretly shorting the market? That would be true. But the reasoning they think that clarity has no chance, I don't think so. I think it's still going to pass at some point. The question's when.
Yeah. I'm going to go the other side. I think it's
all right.
I think
Conspiracy. You need listen. Where's your tinfoil hat? You need to pull
my
that out.
tinfoil hat here. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll call it I don't know what we'll call it. There's no good news coming in the next 30 days. Agree or disagree?
Disagree. My reason for disagreeing is that that's how manipulation works, is they play with your emotions at all times, back and forth and back and forth. We just got a massive drop. Yeah. They're going to play with our emotions, giving us a ray of hope here in the next 30 days.
Yeah, I agree.
But will it lead us back to above 80K? Highly unlikely.
Yeah. I agree in the sense that we disagree on no good news coming. We're going to get some. All right, I'm not worried about strategy at all, and we're talking about MicroStrategy.
I'd say put me in the middle on that one. I'm not ready to say I am really worried, but I think it's foolish to not be worried at all. I mean, at a certain point, the numbers do work out that he has to pay back things. So if we drop to a certain level, he's going to have to pay back.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'm in the middle or if I agree. I'm not worried about. No, I disagree. I am worried about it. I am worried about it. Magic wand. You could only fix one. Clarity passes or an Iranian peace deal.
That's a hard one, because I do think Iran is running out of firepower. I do think that there's a level, there's a point where Iran just can't do anything by themselves. But I think there's a world in which you still see successful crypto without clarity. We need peace, though. I think economic uncertainty is the bigger problem.
You and I are on the same right. No more peace, no wars. Conspiracy theory, here we go. Charles Hoskinson is secretly shorting ADA, knowing his video would crash the token. Of course, we saw I mean, I can play the rant if you want to hear it.
I've listened to it. I don't know if people want to hear it again, but I've heard it. It was intense. I'm not ready to say that he was shorting it. I would pay big money to see, Paul, and there's no way this will ever happen. So maybe someone can use AI and just make it for us. I would love to see Charles Hoskinson on your show and you ask him that question.
He's been on my show. He's been on my show.
Would he come on your show after an accusation?
After now? I don't think so. We'll put an invite out to Charles. If you're listening, you're more than welcome to come on and answer to prove me wrong that you weren't shorting the token, we'll see. Hey, which civil war breaks out first? Do you think Bitcoin below 30K, civil war, or XRP below 50 cents? First.
Oh man.
Which one first?
When you say civil war, you just mean like people like arguing about what's going to happen?
Core holders, devs, just literally starting to.
Oh, you're saying a civil war would break out because the price goes below these levels?
Not a literal civil war like physical. I'm talking about within the communities. Yeah, civil war within the communities. You think it would be a Bitcoin under 30 or an XRP under 50?
So I'm gonna go with XRP below 50 cents. And the reason why is because even though I don't think Bitcoin needs to go below 30K, in theory, if Bitcoin matched a previous bear market, 30K would be about the right level.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there'd be big problems in the XRP army if 50 cents is brought back. If SpaceX IPO stays above 3 trillion, tax the billionaires narrative starts to skyrocket. Do you think that would happen?
Absolutely, because it's already, I feel like when we say it starts to skyrocket, that's already a pretty big conversation.
Happening. And it's at 1.8 to 2 trillion, possibly more. I agree. We're going to see this just more and more.
We got politicians out here wanting to tax AI 50%. So
yeah. Tron flipped Solana.
Oh, I don't even know. I don't pay attention to Tron as much. Do you think Solana's not done yet? I'm going to be wrong probably, but let me just say no. I think Solana stays above it.
All right, I'm in the no camp as well. I don't think they flip Solana. Saylor selling Bitcoin to maximize shareholder value proves anything else is possible and on the table.
It's an interesting question. I think I understand what it's asking, but meaning we're not done with crazy things breaking.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not done. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, okay, that's all right. We're on the same. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. That just says we're another crazy story out of left field could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
You agree. All right. So I'm in agreement with that. I don't think he will do anything to maximize. What do you think about this? Do you think the Coinbase app will freeze in the next 24 hours with the current market falling?
If we crash more and start heading towards 53 tonight, yes. But at our current level and current rate, I don't think so. But it depends on how low we get. So I'll say sub 53,000, yes. As long as we stay above it, no.
All right, I would agree with that.
Put me in no. Put me in no.
I would. Okay, so no.
Yeah. Yes.
I would be in the middle. I think a sub. Yeah, I think you're right. I think if we get into a 53 range, we will see a crash potentially, because the amount of trading that's going to happen around 53 is going to be crazy. Bankless was right on exiting ETH a week and a half ago.
Yeah, I think they're going to. Well, I mean, it depends on what they get into. But let's say no, they were not right to do that, though, because I think there will be a bounce back up. But if they go in and say, well, now we're all in on Solana, then I might have an argument to say they were right. But let's see what their next move is.
Yeah, I don't know on that one. I'm not going to answer because I just don't know if they were right or wrong.
Yeah.
2x price prediction from Arthur Hayes means he'll dump at 20%. And this is, listen, guys, this should be a learning point for everybody, is that when you hear a major influencer say we're going to see something go 2x, figure you're going to be considerably lower than that before an exit. So just always keep that in mind. 2x means really, 20%, 30%.
Yeah.
What do you think? Yes, no?
I talked about Arthur in my show yesterday. I like that Arthur is constantly changing his mind on things when new information comes out.
He does change his mind.
But he changes his mind a lot. So let's say, for the sake of the joke, yes, I do think Arthur Hayes rarely, like, he called for a Bitcoin to like 200,000 by the end of 25 as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That too.
End of year.
He changes his calls all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Which is really the point, is that you just need to follow the news, stay fundamental, and look at long-term narratives and make sure they match up with your investment thesis. If you're a tech investor, if you're a next-generation investor looking for long-term gains, or if you're somebody that's trading volatility. Trading volatility right now, you're going to be making a lot of money in this market today as it is. So whether you're shorting or you're in a position to buy these dips and look for market moves. So definitely a good one. Tim, great having you on the show today. Thanks so much for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me again, Paul.
If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.